Caleb Plant didn't hold back in a recent interview when he roasted Edgar Berlanga for his lackluster performance in his 12-round loss to Canelo Alvarez on September 14th. During his appearance on The Breakfast Club, Plant was asked if he had gained any respect for Berlanga, who managed to go the distance against Canelo. Plant, however, was quick to criticize Berlanga, accusing him of simply fighting to survive rather than trying to win. According to Plant, Berlanga was afraid to take risks and go out on his shield, meaning he wasn't willing to push himself to the limit in the fight. Plant pointed out that Berlanga's only real effort came in the final round, and even then, he was playing it safe. For Plant, this cautious approach showed that Berlanga was more concerned with making it through the fight without being knocked out than actually trying to win. Plant himself stole the show that same night with an impressive 9th-round knockout victory over Trevor McCumbee, proving his ability to come back from behind and deliver a decisive blow. He compared his own courage in that fight to Berlanga's, saying that the New Yorker didn't show nearly the same level of bravery. Plant went on to say that he thought Berlanga's fight with Canelo was a one-sided beating, and that Berlanga might have won a single round, if that. In Plant's eyes, Berlanga didn't deserve the couple of rounds that the judges awarded him, as he never came close to matching Canelo's performance. Plant also suggested that Berlanga's pre-fight trash talk about having more power than Gennady Golovkin was nothing but empty words, as Berlanga's performance in the ring didn't back it up. Throughout the fight, Berlanga relied mostly on his jab, showing very little of the power he had boasted about. As the interview continued, Plant touched on the expectations many fans had for Berlanga going into the fight. Many people thought Berlanga would be stopped somewhere in the middle rounds, likely between the 6th and 8th rounds. However, Berlanga did manage to make it to the end of the fight without being knocked out. But for Plant, simply surviving wasn't enough to earn respect. Is at the level of respect now. It doesn't matter if he wins a round as long as he survives? Plant asked. He made it clear that he didn't think Berlanga deserved any extra credit just for lasting the full 12 rounds against Canelo. Plant found it especially ridiculous that Berlanga spoke so confidently after the fight, as if he had accomplished something remarkable. Berlanga claimed that Canelo told him he would become a world champion and a superstar, but Plant felt that Canelo was likely laughing inside when he said that. In Plant's view, Berlanga had been one of Canelo's weakest opponents, comparing him to Avni Yildirim, who is widely considered one of Canelo's easiest victories. What really bothered Plant was Berlanga's unwillingness to take any real risks when the fight was clearly slipping away. When it's 10-0, and it's the 11th round, and you haven't won one round, it's time to put it all on the line, Plant said. He emphasized that many legendary fighters have been stopped while giving it their all, and there's no shame in that. In fact, Plant believes it's better to go out trying to win, even if it means getting knocked out, than to play it safe and avoid taking chances. Plant suggested that Berlanga's ego got in the way, making him more focused on staying clean and pretty rather than risking a knockout in a final attempt to turn the fight around. For Plant, this was a major flaw in Berlanga's approach, and it's something he doesn't respect. "No, I don't respect that," Plant stated firmly, making it clear that he believes fighters should be willing to take risks when the situation demands it. Despite his harsh words, Plant did mention that he would be open to fighting Berlanga in the future. Berlanga is still considered one of the bigger names in the super middleweight division, and Plant said he's always willing to step into the ring with top contenders and take on big challenges. A fight between the two would certainly generate interest, especially given Plant's outspoken criticism of Berlanga. Fans would likely be curious to see if Berlanga could rise to the occasion and prove Plant wrong by showing more grit and determination in the ring. But for now, Plant is far from impressed with Berlanga's performance against Canelo, and he made it clear that Berlanga has a lot to prove if he wants to be considered a serious contender in the super middleweight division. One of the key takeaways from Plant's criticism is the emphasis on what it means to be a true competitor in the sport of boxing. For Plant, it's not enough to just survive in the ring, especially when you're fighting someone at the caliber of Canelo Alvarez. He believes that fighters should always aim to win, even if the odds are stacked against them. Plant's comments reflect a mentality that many boxing fans and purists appreciate: a warrior mindset, where going out on your shield, even if it means getting knocked out, shows heart and courage. This mindset is what separates great fighters from the rest, and in Plant's view, Berlanga fell short in that regard during his fight against Canelo. Another interesting point Plant raised is how Berlanga's pre-fight bravado didn't match his in-ring performance. Berlanga had talked a lot about his power, and even compared himself to some of the greats like Gennady Golovkin, GGG. But when it came time to deliver, his performance didn't live up to the hype. Plant pointed out that instead of showing the punching power he had bragged about, Berlanga resorted mostly to jabs throughout the fight. This contrast between the pre-fight hype and the actual fight is something that often frustrates fans, who want to see fighters back up their words with action. In this case, Berlanga's performance left much to be desired, especially after setting such high expectations. The discussion around Berlanga's ego also ties into a larger conversation about how fighters handle their image and reputation. Plant suggested that Berlanga's reluctance to take risks in the later rounds was driven by a desire to preserve his image rather than truly go for the win. This idea of prioritizing appearance over performance is something that Plant clearly doesn't respect. In boxing, taking risks often comes with the territory, and the best fighters are remembered for their willingness to leave it all in the ring, regardless of the outcome. For Plant, Berlanga's decision to play it safe instead of pushing himself reflected a lack of true grit, which is crucial for success at the highest levels of the sport. Finally, the idea of a potential Plant versus Berlanga fight is an exciting prospect. Given the public nature of Plant's criticism, a matchup between the two would likely generate a lot of interest, not just because of their skill levels, but also due to the personal dynamic that has developed. Plant has made it clear that he's willing to take on big challenges, and a fight with Berlanga could be a chance for both fighters to prove something. This contrast between the pre-fight hype and the actual fight is something that often frustrates fans, who want to see fighters back up their words with action. In this case, Berlanga's performance left much to be desired, especially after setting such high expectations. The discussion around Berlanga's ego also ties into a larger conversation about how fighters handle their image and reputation. Plant suggested that Berlanga's reluctance to take risks in the later rounds was driven by a desire to preserve his image rather than truly go for the win. For Berlanga, it would be an opportunity to show that he's more than just talk and that he can compete against top-tier opponents. For Plant, it would be a chance to back up his words and further establish himself as a top contender in the division. Whether or not this fight happens, Plant's critique has certainly added some fuel to the fire, making fans eager to see how both fighters will move forward.